What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of X-Factor Fantasy Football, where you have three apparently very good fantasy football players, and one of them being the most new fantasy football player to the group, which might be Jenna. Apparently, she might be the best of the group because she keeps going on these runs, and so it's been a really interesting season so far. Jordan is having a great year. Team is dominant. This is going to be your eighth win, Jordan?
9. This will be 9. One more. Need one more.
Okay, 9-2 for Jordan, and then Jenna. After today, you will be 8-3, which is and you haven't made a trade since the draft, if I remember correctly.
Have I made a trade? Trades are actually really scary to me. Like, I don't know if you guys want to talk about this for like the newer fantasy player, right? But we were just debating this before the start of the show. Swipa is trying to fleece me for Josh Dobbs, who I had the in Spanish it's sabiduría, wisdom. That's what it is in English. The wisdom to pick him up off of the waiver wire when he wasn't a hot commodity, and now Swipe is trying to fleece me for him for Russell Wilson, who he's been saying all year that Russ ain't the problem in Denver.
So even just to be clear about this, since Jordan as my reputable witness right here, there is no fleece at all. Actually, it's just that right now Russ is QB 14 in fantasy, and then you have the player I'm trying to trade for is QB 8. And there's currently, by the way fantasy works, Russ has scored 167.8 on the year. Josh Dobbs has scored, 191. So, yeah, there's a 24-point difference, but Russ also had a bye week in the middle of that. So, again, that's kind of how some of this stuff works as well. So it's not that Russ has been playing that much worse. It's just that point accumulation. But this is what happened. I obviously have Joe Burrow. So this year, I have lost, at points in time, Saquon, Cooper Kupp, Joe Burrow. Jordan just lost Mark Andrews for at least foreseeably into the fantasy football playoffs, it might look like, if he comes back at all. And you know how that fibula injury and all that stuff, who knows? Like, is he even going to be able to move and all that stuff and everything else? So we'll find out. You're on mute, by the way, bro. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm not counting on him being back. Yeah, I'm not. I'm chalking that up.
So since we're here, we might as well get here. So I've been talking to Jordan. Jordan has a great stack with Dak and CD. I have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp. And so, again, just to be clear, I've been leading. I think I've been 2 in scoring over the last 6 weeks of fantasy football, and then I ran into some more injuries this week. So the team was actually good. But the issue is that Jordan dominating this year. Team's been really good. He's receiving calls about Dak. But Jordan, out the kindness of his fantasy football heart, and because he's also doing really well this year, Jenna, we're talking about me trading one of my QBs. So obviously be Russ, because you have Dak and who?
Sam Howell. I don't necessarily need a quarterback back, to be honest.
That's right.
Necessarily.
So that's the thing is, would you be willing to do for Jamar and maybe another asset for CD and Dak?
Possibly, but it depends on what that asset would be, because CD is the one I'm hesitant on. It's not like I want a whole bunch for him, but like he's a top end guy, so I'm always hesitant on those guys. With Dak, I'm more so looking to see if I can just trade him for anything flex or starter level, because although I do think he's going to have a great finish for the rest of the season, I don't think it's going to be anything to where, if I get an upgrade elsewhere, get another player that is starting, and I start Sam or something.
Jamar Chase is currently wide receiver 7. CD is currently wide receiver 3 after this last week. And obviously, Jamar has had to deal with Joe Burrow having some up and down play and all that. And then Browning, his target share will be high, but we don't know what Browning's to do rest of the year. So
and Dak has their playoff matchups are like great. That's the other thing too.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's the thing. I feel like it's going to be difficult with me trading with people. Our deadline is after this Monday night game ends.
Right.
So, 4 hours. It's going to be difficult because I'm not looking at anything other than week 16 or 17. Like, I don't care about the rest of the regular season for real. I just need one more win and I'm locked into a bye. So someone who's going to do well necessarily for the rest of the regular season, who cares? I don't care to go 10-4 versus 12-2 or 11-3. It doesn't matter to me. So it's all about what's gonna put me in good position for those 2 weeks. those 2 weeks. Because I just really need to win those 2 weeks for real to
Right.
win the league, assuming I get one more win out of these next 3.
Well, I'll tell you what, the championship schedule, I look at the playoffs versus the New England Patriots. I got it back versus the Patriots and versus the Chargers to close the season out. So
Who's that, Javonte?
Yeah, that's Javonte.
Okay.
Oh, Javonte, Jamar Chase, and Russ, and then be centered around Dak, CD, and then some lesser player basically at this point because that
just send the offer so I know what it looks like in front of my face.
Well, Jenna, since you are not in any of these talks, how are you feeling so far about how your team is doing right now, given the fact that you're about to get another win? Somebody said trades Chase and Sutton for Diggs. No way, absolutely not. No, not even close.
I see what the thought process is there, but that's too much.
Chase has too much value. Sutton has also been a wide receiver 2 on the year.
Yeah, he's got some value.
Yeah, for sure. So, Jenna, how are you feeling about your team and stuff right now?
I mean, I think you said I had the highest scoring week. I don't think so. I think Team Uncle G had the highest scoring week.
Well, you're projected for 152. OG.
I'm projected for the most. Yeah. Yeah. I guess I feel like I just don't want to participate in trades because we're all going up against each other. So it's basically just trying to figure out like, oh, is CeeDee Lamb going to do well in the weeks I have him, or is he going to do well in the weeks Swipe ahead, or whoever the player is? But trying to figure out like, I mean, I never had thought about Jordan's predicament of the bye week, locking up the bye week before, but I don't know. I guess I feel like I'm just giving you an unfair advantage because I'm giving you one of my players that I drafted, and I had faith in the people I drafted. You know what I mean?
Well, when you're trading, typically you're trading to develop assets in other spots of your team. So, for instance, like when I traded Justin Fields, Travis Etienne, who's RB1 on the year so far, and then I traded I think George Pickens, and I got back Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and some bench player, like somebody I've not even used. Some of this is I was already strong around the rest of my roster. I wanted to solidify myself more consistently at quarterback, and then really get Jamar Chase, who's going to be one of the 5 best receivers in fantasy on most seasons. So some of this is just like, how do you want to build your roster? And especially in a full PPR, I prioritize receivers over anything. So I have Saquon and Javonte, but I have Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, which sounds like a great idea. But Cooper Kupp has been non-existent for a lot of this year. And then I got Dalton Schultz, and Michael Pittman's been a wide receiver 1 this year. And then I have like Quentin Johnson or Romeo Doubs. And Romeo has actually been a good performer this year. So some of this is depending on what you prioritize. And so I think quarterback Joe Burrow was a solidified guaranteed start for me. But then on the other end, I think I've transferred between Jordan Love and Russell Wilson as a backup, but Joe Burrow's never had injury issues like this since his rookie year. So it's always hard when you get to this time of year and you're trying to manage a fantasy team going into the playoffs or to make the playoffs, just because if you lose a significant piece, like Mark Andrews, now it's about how do I make up these pieces in a way that's not going to ruin my team. Now, luckily, Jordan, maybe not luckily, is that everybody knows who Jordan's probably going after. Let me say most people that own Mark Andrews, everybody knows who they're going after in free agency this Wednesday. And that's going to be, obviously, what's the name? Number 80. What's his last name?
Likely?
Yeah, Isaiah Likely. So that's what most people are going to be targeting. Now, I'm not saying Jordan.
It's tough because while I probably will put on a claim on him, I don't know how much, if any, fab I'm going to put it on. Only because, again, I have to be thinking about, though it's different. Like, it's a different predicament when your team is locked in with a few weeks left, because I have to think about, okay, I can't put all this fab in for him because what if I get to the last couple weeks, championship weeks, and there's a really good defensive matchup and I want to spend the fab on that, or there's stuff like that. There's somebody gets hurt and it's championship week, or it's the week before the championship, and I need to save money. I've already spent a fair amount of my fab, which has helped me get to this position, but it's that balance of, is that upgrade is Isaiah Likely really going to come in and do all but so much, and me spending that money when like I said, I don't need wins right now. Like I don't need, but one more win, maybe, and maybe not even that, to get a 1 or a 2 seed. So like, what good does that do me for real?
Right.
Jordan, why would you need Fab after the trade deadline? Like, I just might not be thinking of it.
Yeah, because need like to outbid somebody for a player essentially on the waiver wire.
Oh, like waiver wire.
Yeah, because that could if you get to week 16 and somebody's really has a really good matchup and I'm playing somebody in the playoffs or whatever, yeah, they can outbid me or I can outbid them. Just depending on how much I have left. So, more strategy, just more strategy. But yeah, of course, I'm going to put in a claim on Likely, but I don't know if I'm going to put 1 cent of Fab money on him.
Right. Yeah, man. It's just in a lot of fantasy football too. And again, it's just the way it works. Like, it just comes down like, are your guys healthy? When you get to the playoffs, and can they stay healthy? And then can they rise when they get there? And that's just what a lot of it is. Some of these teams, like, beginning of the year, when Ev got Austin Eckler on the roster, I think a lot of people were like, well, this is a super team. Like, who's going to beat it? That's just not how fantasy football works. Like, you can have as good of a team as possible, but if you lose 1, 2 guys, and name brand guys especially, it typically doesn't do it. Typically, as Jordan knows, and Jenna obviously figured out this year because great draft strategy she had, you get some of these dudes on the margin, David Montgomery's out of nowhere. Everybody's like, he ain't going to beat nothing sitting. Next thing you know, he's an RB1 on the season, and he's carrying you to victories every single week. Or you get Keenan Allen in the 4th round, 3rd round, and all of a sudden people are like, there's no way wide receiver 2 on the year. So it's fantasy football. It's about making good decisions in the draft, managing on the waiver wire as much as possible. But then again, it's really, you get to the end, you want to make sure that your guys are healthy and available. And so far for Jenna, that's worked out really well. Jordan and I have had to navigate some injuries, and Jordan's team has done a better job of navigating some of those injuries than my team has. So kind of luck of the draw. But,
so you're proposing Wilson and Herbert for Dobbs for me, and then Jordan has to give something too?
No, so I just sent Jordan a trade to get a stack back in return prior to the trade deadline tonight. But then with you, a smaller deal would be giving you another running back that you can play as a flex should somebody go down. And then I take on Josh Dobbs as my QB1. So what it does is your backup quarterback, you regress, I think, from 7 to 14 in terms of QB rankings, but then you get an extra flex that attached to your roster. So if you do lose whoever, and then you want to play them, that's just how it works.
Have y'all felt like wide receivers are way more important than the running backs, though?
In this league, yeah, in full PPR, I think so. Unless you have a running back like CMC or Eckler getting 80 to 100 like targets or something, or Alvin Kamara, for instance.
Yeah, I haven't felt like running backs have been like a huge difference maker, I guess.
Right.
In my other league, I lost because I don't even know. I looked at the scoring after this loss because it was crazy. I lost simply because the Chargers defense scored 60 points. How are they
60?
scoring 60 points? A defense.
You said 16 or 60?
6-0.
What?
I lost this entire match. Like, I was winning by like 40 points. It was in another league, right?
They might have like different scoring.
They have totally different scoring. It's crazy. They like really give defense a lot of advantage.
Probably
So
for every individual, like a lot of they probably score very differently.
It was wild. Every week I compare the two leagues, and like they score everything differently. Our like our quarterbacks will be like double the scoring in that league than in our league.
They probably do points per completion.
Like, what was the final score of your matchup?
That matchup was crazy. I'll have to look it up here real quick.
Yeah,
it was like a couple weeks ago.
Points per completion.
And the most I've ever seen on the defense in a half PPR, full PPR is like 40, 45 points per defense. That's the Cowboys had one this year, and the Patriots had one a couple years ago.
I was livid, y'all. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of just like I said, it's knuck if you buck time if you play fantasy football. You basically got 3 weeks left until the fantasy football playoff starts. So whatever you're going to do, you got to make these moves on the margin to secure your roster. But again, if you lose a big guy, Mark Andrews, Cooper Kupp, Joe Burrow, it's just about like, how do you try to fix that again? Some you can do that in the waiver wire, but some of it you might be out of luck. But I'll be aggressive in trade talk to try to fill these roster spots out. Again, not to the detriment of your team, but you can't sit on your hands. And so this is why Jen and I are talking, Jordan and I are talking, why OG and I were on the phone a little bit earlier today, because especially for today, for our league, this is the trade deadline.
Yeah. So that week, I lost 171 to 150, and the Chargers defense scored 43 points.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of league that is. That's crazy.
I'm saying. And Joe Burrow had 45 points that week. So I'm thinking I'm clear sailing, like definitely going to win this week. It was horrible.
All right, let me see here. So we just got done week 11. Y'all think so? Calvin Ridley's had a little bit of a resurgence this last week. He had 31 fantasy football points to finish as the wide receiver 1 of the week. Tank Dell finished as wide receiver 3, had 8 receptions for 149 yards and a touchdown. Keenan Allen, wide receiver 4. Yeah, y'all. Are there any surprises from this last week that you're looking at, or anyone that won you to match up, or maybe lost you to match up from an opponent that you're playing against?
I think the Miami backs,
yeah,
not do like combining for. I mean, I know Shane left to injury, but both of them combining for. I played against somebody who started both of them combining for 11, 12 points.
Right.
I mean, when you start both of them, you're looking for 30, 40 probably on a given week. So yeah, that's definitely a big disappointment. That game was a little more difficult than anybody anticipated.
Right.
And it was just didn't give much fantasy output there. So outside of a couple guys, but for those backs, if you're starting them, that was definitely a disappointing week.
Yeah, Derrick Henry was super disappointing. Another week in a row. Just a disappointing output. If you had Stephon Diggs, you probably were pretty disappointed in that output from him this week as well. Just numbers wise, wasn't there. I'm saying though, Henry 10 carries again, 11 carries last week. Like,
yeah, he's been a bust this year.
He was my number 1 draft pick. So you claiming I had a good draft strategy? Maybe I didn't. Maybe I
did. Because you haven't made a move, and you're going to be sitting at 8-3 here. Because you just made some good solid moves later in the draft, especially as well. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a little bit of a rough time. And I lost Andrews in my other league, and then that because of that, Jamar Chase is being affected by that. So yeah, this is just going to be a little bit of a crapshoot. Cannot believe Joe Burrow completely out for the season. Oh boy. But yeah, y'all. Jordan, did you get a chance to look at that deal yet? How you feeling about it? How's it look?
I'm about to look at it. What you described didn't sound terrible. It's just a matter of how much I want to get rid of the stack that's been carrying me for a lot of the season. But again, so the main thing I'm going to be looking at is the matchups. Those matchups you said for Javonte sound pretty good in the playoffs, and then Jamar, like you said, target share is going to be there. So yeah, I'm definitely considering it. I have literally 6 different people I'm talking to for not just that offer, but like just in general. So it's hard because some of the couple of deals that I want to potentially make are contingent on if another deal goes through. So I got to time it right.
Jordan makes moves, man.
Yeah, never sitting on my hands. Never sitting on my hands with my team.
I feel like you've made a lot of moves this entire season.
I haven't made that many trades. I think I've only made maybe 1 trade. I think I've made 1 or 2 trades. But I just have made timely good pickups. I drafted well. So it's been a mix of the 3, drafting well, made a good trade, and then a couple good waiver wire pickups. And that's the thing. Like sometimes a trade, like you look at that Mark Andrews trade, right? I could say, well, looking back, I lost that trade because he's not there, and he got Kamara, I got Brees, even though those 2 are about even. But that's one way to view it, but you also have to view it through the lens of sometimes, even if a trade or a player that you traded for or whatever, a move doesn't see you through the whole season, the fact that it got you into position means there was a lot of value there. So like Puka having quarterback issues, and if let's say Puka is like a flex for the rest of the season, and he was a wide receiver 1 or 2 for the first whatever, how many, 7, 8, 9 weeks, right? You could say, well, okay, Puka fell off. But no, that could be true. But at the same time, he gave you 7 to 9 weeks to where he got you in position to where you're number one team in the league. So
Right.
he was still a key contributor of you winning or doing whatever I end up doing this year. So you gotta kind of know, and that's the key thing. You gotta know when to pivot off of someone. Like when someone has given you the appropriate amount of value that they're going to give you that year, and then to pivot to something different that's going to carry you through the next stretch of games.
Yeah, I feel you.
I've had years where I've had 3 different, 1 or 2 or 3 different teams throughout the year, like where I've made 2 major overhauls throughout the season just because it made sense. And I ended up getting to a championship or winning. One of the times I won, and when I did that 2 times. One of the times I won. The other time I ended up finishing third because a guy got hurt. A couple guys got hurt in my
Mhm.
lineup, and so I lost that matchup and then won the consolation matchup. So it's worked out each time. Just a matter of if it makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, fantasy football is definitely a crapshoot, y'all. But that's gonna do it for this episode of X Factor Fantasy
Who y'all
Football.
got tonight?
On Wednesday, huh?
Who y'all got tonight? Monday night.
The Eagles.
Yeah, probably.
10 KC.
We're at odds then. Swipe is too concerned about like what he's gonna do with these trade proposals to be focused on Monday Night
Only got
Football.
3 to
He's
4 hours
stressed.
left.
No, yeah, I know. It's probably gonna be tonight. Probably will be the Eagles, honestly. But we'll see, man. Kansas City hasn't looked super great lately, but we'll see how they end up closing out tonight.
Mhm.
For sure.
But yeah, y'all, that's gonna do it. We will see y'all on Wednesday. We out.
Peace.